Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are packing our bags, putting on our hiking boots, and maybe a gas mask, which we'll definitely get to later, and heading to a place that's been breathlessly described as the Aspen of Central Europe.
Yes.
We are talking about Zakopane, Poland.
It is a fascinating and I would say a somewhat polarizing destination. It really is.
Polarizing is a good word for it.
It's billed as the winter capital of Poland, and in recent years it's been marketed so heavily as this budget-friendly alternative to the Swiss Alps.
Right.
But as we combed through the source material for this dive, specifically a very detailed on-the-ground travel report from two travelers, Phil and H, we found that the reality is significantly more complex.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just complex. It feels like a place defined by these massive contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, you have this undeniable world-class alpine beauty. I mean, the Tatra mountains are jagged, they're dramatic, they are serious mountains.
They really are.
But on the other hand, you have reports of traffic jams that would make a Los Angeles commuter weep.
Yeah, I read that. It sounds brutal.
And toxic smog issues, and cheese that, spoiler alert, might not actually be the cheese you think you're buying.
Exactly. And that's really the central tension we need to explore today. It's all about identity. Is Zakopane still a hidden gem of Gorál or Highlander culture?
Or has it just tipped over the edge? Has it become a sort of Disney-fied tourist trap?
That is the big question.
So let's set the scene properly for everyone. Our sources, Phil and H, they went in with two very different lenses.
Which is really useful for us.
It is. Phil is the budget guy. He's focused on the logistics, the bottom line, the value proposition.
The practicalities.
Exactly. And then H is the soul searcher. She's looking for the culture, the history, the vibes.
Right.
And they landed right at the foot of the Tatras.
And the geography here is so critical because I think a lot of people hear Poland and they just think of, flat plains or maybe some rolling hills.
Sure, that's the common image.
Zakopane isn't that at all. It lies at the foot of the highest range in the entire Carpathian Mountains, and it forms the border between Poland and Slovakia.
So this is the only true alpine terrain between the Alps in the west and, the Caucasus in the east?
That's it. It's a really unique geographical pocket.
So the stakes are high. This is legitimate, big mountain terrain. But the mission of this deep dive is to move past the Instagram trend. We're seeing a massive influx of these dupe videos lately. The ones go here, not there.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere.
And Zakopane is just exploding online as the cheap Alps. So we need to analyze the actual costs, the culture shock of the crowds, and honestly, the safety realities of these mountains.
And we should probably look at why this dupe trend is even happening right now. I mean, people are desperate for that Swiss aesthetic, aren't they?
They are. The wooden chalets, the snow-capped peaks, the whole fondue vibe.
But they want it on a Polish budget.
Which sounds great on paper. I mean, who doesn't want champagne views on a beer budget?
Of course. But our source material highlights this really intense friction on the ground.
Okay, talk about that.
Well, you have a town of about 27,000 local residents.
Right.
But in peak season, they're dealing with literally millions of tourists.
Millions. That's an incredible ratio.
That kind of ratio always leads to friction. And in Zakopane, it's not just about physical space. It's about cultural erosion. This is the heartland of the Gorál people.
Right. Let's unpack that term, Gorál. Who are they exactly?
So they are Polish Highlanders with a very distinct, very proud culture.
Okay.
They have their own dialect, which can be pretty difficult for other Poles to understand. They have their own music, lots of fiddles and cellos, and a very specific style of dress.
I've seen pictures of the trousers, the embroidered wool trousers and felt hats.
Exactly. It's a historic identity that somehow survived the partitions of Poland and even the communist era. It's incredibly resilient.
I sense a but coming.
But the report we're looking at notes that this culture is currently being, and I'm quoting here, monetized to within an inch of its life.
Oof. That is a harsh assessment.
It is, but it might be an accurate one.
And that brings us to the why now argument. The sources seem to suggest that if you want to see any of this authentic culture, you really need to go sooner rather than later.
Yeah, they do. The battle between the real Gorál tradition and mass tourism seems to be tilting, and is tilting heavily toward the latter.
You can almost see that battle physically in the architecture, can't you?
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
Zakopane has this unique architectural style. It's actually called the Zakopane style, and it was pioneered by a guy named Stanislaw Witkiewicz.
And what defines it?
They're these massive wooden villas with really intricate carvings, high stone foundations, and very steep roofs. The whole idea was to make them look like they grew organically out of the earth.
They sound beautiful.
Oh, they're stunning.
But the report describes this really jarring visual clash on the ground.
Yes.
You'll have a beautiful, historic villa right next to, what was it, a billboard for energy drinks?
And a shop selling plastic swords and cheap souvenirs.
Plastic swords and energy drinks, the universal signs of a tourist trap.
It's almost a cliche, isn't it?
It's like the cultural equivalent of a jump scare. You're admiring this beautiful 19th century woodwork, and then bam, a neon sign for a kebab shop.
Unfortunately, yes. It creates this kind of sensory dissonance that can be pretty overwhelming for a first-time visitor. You're looking for history, and you're just getting a carnival.
Speaking of overwhelming, let's talk about the journey itself, because getting to this mountain paradise sounds, well, it sounds like a real test of patience.
It's a logistical reality check that I think catches a lot of people off guard. The vast majority of international visitors are going to fly into Krakow.
Okay, KRK Airport. Makes sense.
And from there, it's about 100 kilometers south to Zakopane.
100 kilometers. Okay, so in my head, that's like what? An hour and a bit, maybe an hour and a half if you're driving slow.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But the road, known locally as the Zakopianka, it's notorious. It is legendary for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, no.
Our travelers reported that their bus ride took nearly 3 hours.
3 hours?
And they noted that on a Friday afternoon or a holiday weekend, forget about it, it can take 5 hours.
5 hours to go 100 kilometers. That is an average speed of 20 kilometers an hour. You could almost bike it faster.
It's just sheer volume. It's essentially a single artery feeding a massive tourist heart. The infrastructure just hasn't kept up with this explosion in popularity.
I can just imagine the frustration.
But there is a payoff.
Yeah.
The view. As you finally break free of the traffic and approach the town, the landscape shifts dramatically.
Okay.
You leave the flat kind of industrial plains of Poland behind, and suddenly the earth just sort of crumples up in front of you.
Right.
And you see the sleeping night, Mount Giwant, just dominating the skyline.
I love that name, The Sleeping Night. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. It sets such a powerful mood.
It certainly does. But that mood clashes instantly with the first impressions of the town itself.
How so?
Well, the travelers described the bus station as just a diesel-fuming parking lot.
Yeah.
And then there's the smell.
Oh, the smell. I made a specific note of this because it was so distinct. They described it as a mix of grilled sheep cheese and coal smoke.
Yes. And that's a critical point about the environment there. The valley shape creates what's called a thermal inversion. It traps air.
Right.
And because many of the older homes in the region still use coal or wood for heating, the smog in winter can be significant. It's a very specific, gritty sensory profile.
So you have the smell of Oscypek. That's the smoked cheese being grilled on the street corners.
That's the lovely smell.
Mixing with basically industrial smoke.
Exactly. It's a lot to take in.
It sounds incredibly intense. And the noise, they talked about Krupówki Street, which is the main drag. It sounds like sensory overload.
Yeah, it is.
You've got traditional Highlander bands playing fiddles, which sounds lovely, right next to people in giant teddy bear costumes.
And luxury jewelers next to kebab shops. It's that contrast again everywhere you look.
Right.
The forest described the vibe as feeling like the town is being crushed by the mountains. It feels like a tourist trap, but it has this undeniably pretty dramatic backdrop that you just can't ignore.
But they did say it gets better, right? It's not all diesel fumes and teddy bears.
No, absolutely not. They were very clear about that. They noted that once they settled into their accommodation, which was a wooden villa away from that main chaos, it became cozy.
Okay.
There was a charm there, but you had to physically distance yourself from the commercial center to find it. You have to seek it out.
Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks then. The economics. Is it actually cheap? Because budget-friendly alternative to the Alps is a huge claim to live up to.
It is, but with some significant caveats.
Of course.
The travelers broke down the accommodation tiers, and this is where you can see the real value proposition. At the low end, you have pokoje.
Pokoje. Now, those are like private rooms in people's homes, right? Like a B&B kind of thing.
Exactly, or small family-run guest houses. And you can find these for around $35 to $50 US a night.
Per room. Not per person.
Per room.
That is exceptional value. For a private room with a bathroom in a major international tourist destination, that's incredible.
It's amazing. You can't get a hostel bunk in a shared dorm for that price in London or Paris or Zermatt.
No way.
Then you move up to the mid-range dedicated apartments or hotels, and you're looking at around $100 to $150. Still very reasonable.
Still pretty good compared to the Alps.
And then you have the high-end, the luxury spots like the Aries Hotel, which go for $250 and up.
Okay, so the housing is a definite win. But what about the daily spending? Because that's where a budget can really fall apart. You can lose a lot of money on food and drinks if you aren't careful.
And this is where inflation and the strong Polish zloty really come into play. It is cheaper than Western Europe, undoubtedly. But for Poland, it is expensive.
Right, it's all relative.
Exactly. And there are specific traps you need to watch out for.
Let's talk about food. Because our travelers mentioned the Krupówki tax. I love that term.
Yes, it's perfect. If you eat on the main street, Krupówki, you are paying London prices. Full stop.
Really?
They recorded main courses going for $18 to $23. For Poland, that is very, very high. You are paying for the location, not necessarily the quality of the food.
But they found a fix. I love this part of the report, the bar Mleczny.
The milk bar.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating cultural institution, a real holdover from the communist era.
Explain what that is.
They're basically government-subsidized cafeterias that were designed to provide cheap, nutritious food to workers. Many of them are still around.
And in Zakopane?
You can find these local canteens just 2 streets over from the main drag, and there you can get a massive plate of pierogi, the dumplings, for about $6.
$6 versus $23, that's a no-brainer.
It is.
It's literally a 5-minute walk to save 75% on your meal. That's the kind of tip that makes a trip possible for some people.
It's a huge difference. And then there's the other option, the street food diet.
Ah, yes, the cheese.
The famous Oscypek.
It's everywhere, right?
It's a staple. Smoked sheep cheese, they grill it over a little fire and serve it with cranberry jam. Costs about $1.25.
Okay.
The travelers noted that you could technically survive just on cheese.
But you probably shouldn't.
They did advise against it for, general health reasons.
A cheese-only diet sounds like a dream and a nightmare at the same time. My cardiologist is screaming, but my stomach is cheering.
It would certainly be a memorable trip.
So moving from food to activities, there's another culture tax contrast, right?
A big one. Entering the Tatra National Park, the main reason you're there, costs about $2.25.
That's it.
That's it. They called it the best value ticket in the world.
I mean, $2.25 to access world-class mountains? That is amazing.
But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Kasparoi Wirge cable car, which is around $33, or the thermal baths at $25.
So your daily budget can swing wildly based on your choices.
Absolutely. A backpacker could probably do it for $60 a day total. A luxury traveler could easily spend $300.
So it scales. That's good to know. But money isn't the only thing you can waste on a trip. You can also waste time. A lot of time. And this report has some really serious warnings about logistics. They called this section, How to Save the Vacation, which says it all.
And honestly, this advice is so crucial because Zakopane punishes spontaneity. It really does.
Yeah.
If you just show up and hope for the best, you will probably have a bad time.
Okay, let's start with the big one. The cable car we just mentioned.
The queue.
They saw people waiting for 4 hours just to buy a ticket.
4 hours, standing in line. Just imagine spending half your vacation day standing on concrete, staring at the back of someone's jacket just to pay for a ticket.
That is a vacation killer right there. My back hurts just thinking about it.
Total killer. But the solution is so simple, yet essential. Buy online. Way ahead of time. The PKL website lets you book weeks in advance for a specific time slot, say 10:00 a.m. You just walk past the hundreds of sad people in the line, scan your barcode, and get right on the lift.
Sad people in the line. I can picture it so vividly. It's such a simple fix.
It changes your whole day.
Okay, trap number 2. The horse carts at Morskie Oko.
This is a big one, and it involves some pretty serious ethical considerations.
Right. So Morskie Oko is a famous, beautiful lake, the eye of the sea.
It is. But to get there, there's a 9-kilometer asphalt road that leads up to it.
And you can walk it, or you can pay to take a horse-drawn cart.
And the verdict from our sources was a very hard no on the carts.
Why so definitive?
A few reasons. First, there are significant animal welfare concerns about the horses being overworked, pulling heavy loads of tourists up that steep asphalt all day.
That's a valid concern.
Second, the experience itself isn't great. You're sitting in a crowded cart smelling manure for an hour. And third, it's expensive for what it is.
So what's the alternative? Walking 9 kilometers on asphalt sounds kind of boring.
It is a bit of a slog, though it's good for your health. The travelers actually suggested something else.
Which was?
Skipping Morskie Oko entirely during peak season.
Really? Skip the most famous spot.
Because it's just too crowded. It's a victim of its own beauty. Instead, they recommended hiking to the Valley of Five Lakes.
And what's the difference?
It requires a harder hike to get to. You have to go up and over a ridge, which naturally filters out the crowds.
I like that filter. Hiking difficulty as a gatekeeper for tranquility.
Yes. It keeps out the influencers in dress shoes, as they so perfectly put it.
Love that phrase. Okay, trap number 3. Navigation. They said Google Maps is basically a liar.
In the mountains, yes, 100%.
Why?
Because Google Maps often calculates walking time based on flat distance. It doesn't properly account for verticality, for loose rock, or for snow conditions on the trail.
That sounds genuinely dangerous.
It is. It leads to people underestimating trails significantly. They look at their phone and think a hike will take 2 hours, and 4 hours later they're stuck on a ridge as it's getting dark.
So what's the fix?
The fix is a local app called Mapa Turisticzna. Our sources called it the Bible for hiking there. It calculates time based on elevation gain and typical trail conditions.
Good to know.
And a related point. Bring cash. Lots of it. The mountain huts, the shelters, they often don't have cell signal for card terminals. Cash only.
Okay, that's a pro tip. And please tell me about the shoes. This part made me cringe.
Oh, the shoes. They saw tourists hiking on slippery, exposed limestone peaks in Converse sneakers.
No! Please tell me you're joking.
I am not. The limestone in the Tatras gets polished smooth by millions of feet over the years. It becomes glassy.
So even when it's dry, it's slippery.
Exactly. And when it's wet, it's like walking on ice. You need proper hiking boots with grip. Vibram soles, it's a basic safety requirement that people just ignore.
Which brings us neatly to the darker side of this deep dive. Safety, nature, and the environment. Because these aren't just pretty hills for a picnic. This is a real alpine environment.
It is. And the hazards are very real. And we touched on the smog earlier, which is a major environmental hazard.
Right, the thermal inversion.
The valley shape traps that coal smoke. If you have any kind of respiratory issues, looking at the air quality index before you go is not just a suggestion, it's a necessity.
The report said sometimes the smog is so thick you literally cannot see the mountains from the town.
That's right. Imagine traveling all that way to see the mountains and you can't even see them. It's tragic.
And what about the weather up on the peaks?
The temperature differential is massive. It can be a pleasant 20 degrees Celsius warmer in the valley than on the summits.
20 degrees! That's a huge difference.
It is. So people dress for the town, maybe a light jacket, and then they go up the cable car and are totally unprepared for near-zero temperatures with a strong wind chill at the top.
Which leads to hypothermia risks.
Of course. And bears. We have to mention the bears. Brown bears exist there.
This is a zoo.
No, it is not a zoo. There are strict rules about not leaving food out, packing out all your trash, and staying on the designated trails. But perhaps the biggest danger isn't the wildlife or the weather.
What is it then?
It's the crowds themselves.
This is the part of the report that actually terrified me. The summit of Giwant.
Yes, the sleeping night. So there is a massive metal cross at the summit. It was installed way back in 1901.
A massive metal cross on a high mountain peak. That sounds like... well, it sounds like a lightning rod.
It is a lightning rod. And because the trail to the very top involves holding on to metal chains to pull yourself up the final steep section, a very dangerous bottleneck happens.
So you're stuck holding a metal chain during a thunderstorm.
Worse, if a storm rolls in suddenly, which happens constantly in the mountains, the weather can change in minutes. You have hundreds of people trying to go up and down a single chain. Panic sets in. You have a crush of people on slippery rocks, thunder crashing all around you, and there's nowhere to go.
That is a legitimate nightmare scenario.
People have died there. Not from a direct lightning strike, but because the crowd made it impossible to descend fast enough to get to safety.
It's just horrifying to think about.
And it highlights the incredible importance of the rescue service there, TOPR.
They're volunteers, right?
Mostly, yes. And they are world-class heroes. They fly helicopters in conditions that would ground most pilots anywhere else in the world. But the goal of any trip should be to never, ever meet them.
Agreed. Don't be the tourist who needs a helicopter rescue for a selfie.
Please don't.
Okay, we've scared everyone enough. Let's pivot and talk about the magic. Because despite the smog, the crowds, and the scary lightning cross, Phil and H did find what they were looking for.
They did. And it mostly revolved around two things: food and scenery.
Let's start with the food. The apple pie at the Murawaniat shelter.
The Zarlatka. Picture this. You've been hiking in the snow for 3 hours. You're cold, you're tired, your legs are burning.
Okay, I'm with you.
You walk into this warm, wooden mountain hut. You smell the wood smoke, and you get a massive slice of hot apple pie served with sour cream.
Mm.
They said that single slice of pie justified the entire cost of the trip.
That sounds like pure Hidge, that cozy, perfect moment, and the scenery moment, the one that really hit them.
That was Risno Polana. It's a glade, a big open meadow. They went at sunset.
And what did they see?
They saw shepherds smoking cheese in a small wooden hut, sheep grazing peacefully, and the high granite mountains turning pink in the evening light.
That's it. That's the Gorál culture right there.
That is the timelessness. It exists.
Yep.
It's just not on the main street next to the kebab shop. You have to hike a little bit to find it.
And the architecture, too. They mentioned the Villa Kaliba.
Right. Seeing those incredible houses that look like they grew organically out of the earth, it's such impressive engineering and artistry. It shows you what the town was meant to be, its soul, before the billboards took over.
But we do have to balance the magic with the letdowns. What was the biggest disappointment for them?
Gubalaka, hands down.
Okay, what is that?
It's a hill you can take a funicular up right from the town center, and it offers a great panoramic view of the Tatras.
Sounds nice so far. And
they describe the top as a carnival. Loud techno music blasting across the mountain, stalls selling cheap plastic junk. Is just bad vibes.
Huh. Techno on a mountaintop. That destroys the serenity instantly.
It's the worst of mass tourism.
Yeah.
A great view, but a terrible atmosphere. It's a classic tourist trap.
And the other big letdown was the fake cheese.
The fake cheese. Yes, I forgot about this.
How can cheese be fake? I need to understand this.
Well, true Oscypek has to be made from salted sheep milk. But sheep only produce milk during the grazing season, which is roughly May to September.
Ah, I see where this is going.
They warned that a lot of the cheese sold on the main street in winter is mixed with cow milk. Or, in some cases, it's just 100% cow milk pressed into the traditional shape.
So it's counterfeit cheese, a cheese knockoff.
It's essentially counterfeit cheese.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the real deal, the pure sheep milk stuff, you need to look for the bakalka huts on the trails where they make it, or look for specific EU certification signs at the stalls.
So if you buy it from a random stall on Krupówki in February,
you are almost certainly eating cow cheese.
Buyer beware on the cheese front. Okay, let's wrap this all up with a verdict. Who is Zakopane actually for? The report created a bit of a matrix for us to help listeners decide.
Right, let's break it down. First, backpackers.
They gave it a pretty high score, an 8 out of 10.
Yes, but with a big condition. Strictly for hiking and milk bars. If you stay in a cheap hostel or a pokoje and spend all day on the trails and eat at the milk bars, it's an amazing, incredibly affordable adventure.
Okay, what about couples looking for a romantic getaway?
A more hesitant 6 out of 10 with heavy conditions.
Such as?
Only go off peak September or October and stay in a quiet villa away from the main street. If you hate crowds, you will struggle here as a couple in August. It's not romantic.
In families.
A very mixed bag. 5 out of 10.
Why so low?
Kids might love the cheese and the funiculars, but pushing a stroller on cobblestones in a massive crowd is miserable.
Yeah.
And the logistics of getting kids up the mountain are really tough. You can't exactly hike a toddler up a vertical peak with chains.
That's a fair point. And finally, the luxury traveler.
Surprisingly, a 9 out of 10. A huge score.
Really? That seems totally counterintuitive given the whole budget reputation.
It's because the high-end hotels and spas there offer spectacular value compared to places like Courchevel or St. Moritz in the Alps.
Ah.
You get 5-star service, incredible spas, fine dining for a fraction of the price you'd pay in France or Switzerland. If you have the money, you can buy your way out of the friction.
Explain that. Buy your way out of the friction.
You get private transfers from the airport so you're not on the crowded bus. The hotel concierge books your cable car ticket so you skip the line. You dine in quiet, high-end restaurants away from the main drag. The chaos becomes something you just look at from your balcony.
That's a fascinating insight. The friction is a tax on those who can't pay to avoid it.
Exactly.
Now, what if you listen to all this and think, you know what, Zakopane, it sounds too chaotic for me. Are there good alternatives?
The report mentions 2 main ones. First, you just look south to Slovakia. The high Tatras continue right across the border.
And is it better over there?
It's different. It's definitely cheaper, it's quieter, and the trails are generally wider and less crowded. But our sources called it a bit sterile.
Sterile.
Yeah. It doesn't have that intense cultural vibe or the amazing food scene of the Polish side. You trade the buzz and the culture for peace and quiet.
A worthy trade for some. And the second alternative?
The Piazzi Mountains in the southeast corner of Poland. If you want truly wild Poland wooden churches, rolling hills, wolves, literally zero crowds, this is the place.
Well, what's the catch?
The logistics are hard. You absolutely need a car to get around. It's much less accessible.
Okay, so Zakopane really is the middle ground. It's accessible, but you pay for that accessibility with crowds.
That's the perfect summary.
And the absolute best time to go if you're gonna go.
Late September. They call it the Golden Polish Autumn.
Uh,
The weather's usually stable, the summer crowds are gone, the winter crowds haven't arrived, and the colors are beautiful.
and when to avoid.
Avoid July, August, and the Polish winter school holidays at all costs, unless you love queues.
Noted. So, bringing it all together now, what is the final synthesis here? What's the core takeaway?
I think the core takeaway is that Zakopane is a truly world-class destination that must be managed. It rewards planning, buying tickets online, understanding the geography, knowing which streets to avoid, and it absolutely punishes spontaneity. If you just show up and wander onto the main street, you will fall into every single trap we discussed today.
It sounds like a place of gritty, intense beauty that requires you to actively look past the neon signs to find its soul.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
You have to earn the good stuff. And it raises a really provocative question for us to leave with the listeners.
Okay.
We talk about Disneyfication as this awful negative thing. But does making a unique culture accessible to millions of people inevitably destroy the very authenticity those millions came to see in the first place?
That is the paradox of modern travel, isn't it? By visiting a place, are we ruining it, or are we providing the economic incentive to keep its traditions alive, even if it's in a slightly packaged form?
It's a trade-off. There's no easy answer. Something to chew on while you eat your smoked cheese.
Your possibly counterfeit smoked cheese.
Or possibly counterfeit smoked cheese, yeah.
Indeed. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into Zakopane.
Safe travels.
We'll see you on the next one.